So, they say some people don't realize what they have until it's gone. But I say that doesn't mean they're supposed to get it back. The reality is that many of you have experienced, or maybe even going through right now, having a man you once dealt with try to come back into your life, all right? Try to waltz right in, maybe act like nothing ever happened, or it could be various scenarios, but either way, he wants another chance, another opportunity. Now, I know some of you already have the mindset of an ex is always an ex. I'm not revisiting that. And I have to tell you, I don't think that should always be the case. Of course, I think the majority of situations that probably will apply. But for some people, there are things to consider, okay? But we need to, I know a lot of women are sometimes confused or they question, why is this man coming back? And why do so many of them come back? Especially with the mindset of, well, if they were going to come back, why couldn't they get it right the first time, right? And so I want to lay out for you some of the real reasons why men always seem to come back. And let me not say always, but in many situations, they come back. And so one of those reasons is because they realize what they lost. So it kind of speaks to that quote I started with. Some people don't realize what they have until it's gone. And I believe this speaks more to the immature man, the man who has not evolved, the man who does not understand the value of a good woman or how to even properly evaluate a good woman. Now, this will tend to happen, I believe, more as a man is maybe younger, early 20s, maybe mid 20s or whatever. But let's be real. They can be grown and still not be mature. They can be grown and still not understand what a good woman really is. And one of those reasons I have to mention that at least the older guys may not understand and grasp when they have a good woman is because they're still holding on to all their previous bad experiences. And they look at everything through this hurt lens, through this perception of you can't trust a woman, or no woman is ever that good, or no woman ever truly loves you. There's even stuff on the internet saying that, a woman doesn't know how to love like a man does. I don't agree with that. But they say it, and a lot of these men take this information in, and now that causes them to struggle with accepting or understanding when they actually have a good woman. And when it's their own actions sabotaging the situation versus exposing the flaws in the woman. See, they think sometimes when they're testing the woman or pushing certain buttons, that if she reacts a certain way, that's always automatically on her, when it's like, no, you're creating an unnecessary problem. But I digress. We're not going to go too deep into that. That might be a whole different video. But the point is that, yes, for some, it takes them a minute before they realize, dang, I did have a good thing. I did have an amazing woman. And sometimes it takes for the smoke to clear. It takes the reality of losing that woman, because one thing that's kind of hitting my spirit right now, and it kind of goes with the men who take basically bad advice online. So you may have some men, for example, and I plan on making a separate video for the guys to kind of help them avoid doing this. You may have some men who they start to ignore or give their woman less attention because they're being told you need to make her miss you. You need to, don't put her too high on a pedestal, all these different things. Not recognizing that in doing so, you're causing her to feel like you're not serious about the situation, that you're not being intentional, that maybe you're seeing other people, whatever, because hell, let's face it, a lot of women have been through those types of situations. And so there's fear on that end as well. Well, the whole thing blows up, they break up. And what happens is it's not simply a realization now that I had a good woman. It's more so like my plan backfired. My plan that I thought would be helpful to me and helpful to us actually continuing the relationship backfired. And now I'm trying to come back because my goal initially was just to keep you, not lose you. I just followed horrible advice in trying to execute that. Okay. Now, I don't say all these things to simply bring sympathy to the man. I'm saying it to bring clarity to you to understand why some of these men come back, or why they later on realize, oh, I actually had a good woman, And I also want to say in regards to the realizing he had a good woman, I think for some men, they don't know themselves enough to know who truly fits into their life. So again, let's use a younger guy for an example, or a guy in his younger years, because some of the men coming back to you may be for those of you who may be older, they may be further back in your past. For some, it's last year, last month, whatever. But let's just say this was a situation that first happened when you guys were younger, right? And at that time of his life, he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know the stability that he needs. And he thinks it's about having a fun girl or this, that, and the other, right? And so that causes him to not understand, no, but you have a good woman that you need to nurture. And this is what you're going to need in the long run. This is what's sustainable. This other type of woman that you're seeking out is going to be more temporary for you. And you're going to end up growing out of that. But he doesn't grasp that all the time. Now, that doesn't happen to every guy, of course, but to some guys, that is part of their process of growing up and figuring some things out. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to he realized he had a good thing and he's trying to get it back. All right, so now here's another reason why men seem to always come back. And I really want you to take a deep breath and listen and not get defensive. And I'll tell you why I had to say don't get defensive. Just hear it out. Some men are coming back because there's an actual genuine connection there. Now, the reason why I said don't get defensive is because for some of you, let's just be real. Let's lay it out for a second. All right. Some of you had a man or experienced a relationship or a situation with a man that there was a deep and genuine connection. And for whatever reason, things did not work out. Things fell apart. It could have been mistakes on his end. It could have been fear on your end. It could have been whatever, right? And sometimes for some women, you look to feed yourself a negative narrative in order for you to have an easier time detaching from that guy. So you may convince yourself, well, there never was a connection. You may convince yourself he was never serious. He had ill intent, whatever the case may be. And you're doing that as a defense mechanism. And of course, that doesn't apply to every last one of you. For some of you, there actually just was no connection. But for some of you, deep inside, you know, there was. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they don't get it right the first time around. All right. Due to unresolved trauma, so lack of healing, due to immaturity, due to not understanding the magnitude of what's in front of them, due to bad guidance, due to outside interference. There's so many things that derail people. But when there's a connection, I always say you can't create it and you can't destroy it. It's just there. Okay. And so you have these situations, I see it all the time, where people can fall apart, literally not talk for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. And when they run back into each other, it's like everything just snaps back into place. It's almost like they never stop talking. All right. And there's something deeper there. With these two people, they can be themselves with each other, and they're just drawn to each other in a way that they are not drawn to other individuals. Okay. Now, again, I have to say, there are some cases where that feeling drawn to someone, there's something else at play. So I don't want you to just latch on to that as in, okay, that's automatic every time. That's a connection. But that is part of what is a connection when it's really there. Okay. And so for that man, he's trying to come back because he's trying to, like, he knows, like, he feels something for you that he doesn't feel for another. And very much so, he may have been trying for years to ignore it. He may have been running from it. He may have been trying to distract himself with it, whether it comes to work, whether it comes to dealing with other women, because tons of people, men and women, jump into other relationships using that new person as essentially a distraction. Now, I'm not saying that they're doing it with this malicious intent to that individual, but to them, some people are told the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. I don't agree with that at all. Okay, I think it's horrible advice. But let's face it, people do that in so many different ways. And so that man may have been trying to, but again, the connection is undeniable. And so he reaches back. And I don't want to get too deep into connection. And there's a lot to understand with that. But I will say this to you as a woman. If you know deep inside, again, let me say, some of you know that relationship was toxic from day one. There was no connection, and we don't need to entertain this specific point. But for those of you who you know deep inside, there is. I'm just going to say for this video, don't let your fear or your hurt block you from properly evaluating the situation. All right? At the very least, because just because there was a connection doesn't automatically mean that now that he's trying to come back, that it's time to actually move forward with him. Then it may still not be the right time. There may still be unresolved issues, things of that nature. But it also doesn't automatically mean on the flip side, oh, just reject and run because how things didn't work out the first time. It means take a step back. Be honest with yourself about what's going on here. If you're a believer, pray and talk to God. Allow him to guide you in those circumstances. Because I see a lot of people who let their own minds and emotions get the best of them in those moments and only make matters worse. All right. And if you are someone who maybe you had that experience already and you feel like I already mishandled or I already jumped the gun, right? And now things are worse. Don't hear this and get discouraged. Hear this and say, okay, well, let me not skip the step now of getting greater guidance from God or properly evaluating if it ever does come back around again. Okay. But I just had to put it out there because listen, not every man coming back is some horrible man looking to do horrible things, which we'll talk about in a second. There are some situations where it's just out of a genuine desire and connection that you and that man have experienced. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another reason why men come back is because the grass was not greener on the other side. So let's face it. This one is, can be a hurtful one for some who have experienced it, but there are situations out there where that man left because he thought it'd be better elsewhere. All right. One story that comes to mind right away, I know of a situation where a man was married. Let's say they were married for 12 years, but I want to say maybe it was a little bit less than that. Either way, after the first couple of years, things kind of started to go downhill. They started having issues. Towards the end, he was dealing with he started entertaining some other woman. And a combination of his own emotions getting the best of him and this other woman saying to him, hey, I want you to leave your wife, he ended up actually going through with filing for divorce and pushing for divorce despite the wife not wanting to do it. And I want to say shortly after divorce, no longer than maybe 1 or 2 months, he was in total regret. And I want to say it was a combination of the grass not being greener and what he now was walking himself into with this other woman. Now that, because a lot of guys in those situations don't understand how that other woman is behaving right now, knowing you have a partner is maybe very different than how she's going to behave once she knows you are all hers, quote unquote. And so the switch up, I guess, happened. Total regret. And as well as I think the regret from now being away from his family more and all these different things. And he was begging to come back. He was begging to come back. And last I know of the situation, she wasn't going for it. She definitely wasn't going for it, wasn't feeling it. And the truth is they had other deeper issues, unresolved issues that were going on. And it might have just made her realize, you know what, this really ain't for me anyways. But the point is, yes, there are men out there who make these decisions and think it's going to be better elsewhere. And when it's not, they want to come home to what they know. They want to come home to what was safe. And if you allow it, which again, we'll talk more about later, they're going to at least try. They're going to at least try because at that point, they have nothing to lose. They're not happy with where they went to. It didn't turn out the way they wanted. So now they got to come back. Now, I also have to say this. It's not on the list, but I'm going to mention it right now. Sometimes that grass not being greener isn't about another person, right? It's about their lifestyle, their situation. So let's just say they've fallen on hard times. And so now the lifestyle on the other side of this is not working out, and they want to go back to what was comfortable, what was more stable. And now they attempt to come back to that woman. And I'll say this is why one of the things you have to always be willing to do, because no matter how much there are women who are going to say, well, I'll never take him back, or, once an ex, always an ex. The reality is that there are going to be women who at times are going to feel like maybe I should give him a chance. Maybe this is real. And that's why I do videos like this, to give a little bit more clarity and help in that evaluation. And so in a situation like this, one of the key things to understand is if the issues that existed when he left still exist, then there's no point in taking him back. Whether he realized the grass wasn't greener or not, if the issues have not been solved, there's no point. And the reality is that I'm not going to say it's impossible and it's never happened, but it's extremely rare for a man to leave a woman for someone else thinking it's better elsewhere, and there weren't issues already existing in that first relationship. It doesn't mean the woman was doing something wrong per se. It's not anything like that. But something was a problem. Something was even if the issue is simply within himself, right? It could be, for example, I know one guy who was in the military. Long story short, he expressed and acknowledged that his own deeper insecurities and unhappiness with himself and his purpose in life caused him to look to women to flirt with, to basically boost his ego and feel better about himself, right? And of course, that inappropriate behavior created conflict and issues and all these different things. So for that woman, the issue is not simply about, okay, now he realized he's wrong. It's, okay, have you fixed those insecurities? Do you understand how to not seek out validation from these other women? Because if that's not fixed, what are we doing? What are we doing? What's the point here? So anyways, bottom line is, yes, sometimes because he thought the grass would be greener, it wasn't, and now he's trying to come back. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's a quote I love to say, and it goes, there's a lot of good men and good women out there. They just need help finding each other. Well, that's kind of the quote. But anyways, yes,